Yo, 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 everybody. What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the What Now podcast with Spencer and Zach on our DoloCast action. What's up, guys? What's up, Zach?
What's up? What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. Well, actually, I've
Fresh
been better.
ankles in the
Yeah,
booth.
I've been better. So I play basketball in a Sunday men's league at the high school with a couple guys from around town. And I rolled my ankle. I sprained my ankle. Dude, pretty gnarly. Like bad enough to where I couldn't put weight on it. But my body is self-healing, self-regulating organism, and I've been getting adjusted, and it's way better today, dude. Like, I mean, I'm probably back to about 50%.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be really interested to see. Like, I've never been injured. I haven't been injured in a long time, and I wear my
That's awesome.
Garmin all the time. And my Garmin for the past like 3 days, ever since I rolled my ankle, has been saying like my training readiness is 1. Like even though I haven't been working out, like I haven't been logging any workouts or anything, but it's telling me like, hey, this is your thing. Like, and it's been telling me like what my recovery time is. Like I didn't log like, oh yeah, I got injured or anything, but I don't know if it can like pick up something. But it's been saying like right now my recovery time to back to ready to train is 65 hours. So I'll be interested to see if in like 3 days I'll actually be like able to walk and stuff.
That's definitely one of the. I mean, it's cool to see with an injury. I mean, it's not cool to be injured, but
no, it's not. But it's a little self-experiment.
Knowing what we know about neurophysiology and everything, it's really a big reason I love the Garmin as well. Shout out Garmin.
Yeah, like if you look, like my HRV, the night that I got injured, it tanked 45 points.
Dang.
And then I started getting adjusted, and now it's coming back up.
Yeah.
So
we'll
see, man.
Would have been crazy to see with the pec tear what that would look like.
Yeah, your pec tear was brutal.
It was gruesome. But I mean, Lil Wayne said it, sprained ankle, nothing to play with, So
yep. Yeah. Like a sprained ankle, boy, I ain't nothing to play with. Yep. That's true. And he is right about that. Yeah. So anyway, what are we going to get into today?
Today we are talking about sprained ankles. No, just kidding. No. We're talking about phone calls and how important they are for the lifeblood of your office. So Spencer, dive into what you're currently, well, you don't have to share, but what your experience has been with phone calls and what we mean by when we say phone calls.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I'll share. So biggest thing, I mean, we talked about Patch this last week and talk about like what it does for your office. And really what Patch does is it just patches up the holes in your flywheels to make sure that your leads don't, slip through the cracks. And one of the ways it does that is through contact request form or discovery calls. And so what happens is if like you want to become a new patient, dude, there's a lot of people. Okay, sidebar before we get going. How do you feel? Because you've done this and I haven't. How do you feel about the whole like new patient schedule themselves versus we call you and schedule you? Like you have to request an appointment. How do you feel about
that? We've never really let like a patient schedule themselves.
Okay.
It's always been like request appointment and then it'll be confirmed.
Gotcha.
But I've always personally, I mean, with our, if you will, like flywheel, now that I'm transitioning from a flywheel to a funnel, but really a great way, and we'll dive into this more, but I've always felt majority of our patients that stay the longest have a great first phone call because that's really like the first entrance into our practice. Now we've had a couple outliers where they book an appointment via like a Facebook voucher link or our Sched link, and they do show up and they're great, and we never get them on the phone. But normally we exchange text or emails before they come in anyways. So there's always some form of contact before they just like walk in.
Yeah. So you always have some sort of communication before the people like just like pull up to your door.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how I would do like, I like emotionally myself. I don't know how I would feel about like just some like just somebody just pulling up and be like, oh, hey, by the way, I got an appointment today. Like not knowing who they are. Like when people come into our office, like I already know their name. Typically I'll know what they do for a living. I'll know their spouse's name. I'll know their kid's name. I'll know what they're coming in for. I'll already have read their paperwork. And I mean, I get all that from their paperwork. We ask who's your emergency contact? What's your spouse's name?
Hmm.
How many kids do you have? And I
Right.
read that before they come in. So like, I already kind of know who they are, and we've already talked on the phone, or somebody's talked on the phone. So they'll be like, yeah, they're like, Jill, she's coming in. She used to live in Colleyville. She was seeing Zach,
Yeah.
and now she's transferring her care over here. And so like, I'll already kind of know something about the people before they
Hmm.
come in. I don't know how I would do like just being like, oh, look, somebody's scheduled today, and like they just pull up. I don't know how I would feel about that.
It's definitely the moment it's happened, where like even if it's just a text exchange where it's like, hey, we're just reaching out to make sure you're a real person and like coming in. Um, it's definitely a strange feeling. I mean, the
It's like
Nevilles
a
talked
blind
about it.
date.
The Nevilles talked about it, and we started implementing this more so. If you go back to our episode with them, but they'll have their CAs like kind of find them on social media, like if they don't know who it is. And that's something we've started to do, is like get a feel for one, what they look like. That way, when they do walk in, we can greet them by name and kind of have an idea, but also know what's going on. We're like, what are they up to? What do they like to do? Like we just had a power lifter the other week, and would have never known he was a power lifter had we not like looked him up really quick on Instagram.
You just Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then let's talk about that. Let's talk about, I mean, I prefer the phone call way more than I
Hmm.
like the text message or the email. I book people through text and through email and stuff. And I used to ask, like, what's your preferred method of contact, text, email, or phone?
Hmm.
And yeah, the phone call just goes way better. So I just nixed all of those, and I just said, when's the best time to call you?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, what is your phone call process like? What do you guys do for it?
Hmm.
And because I mean, really, I kind of took my phone call script from you.
We've Our phone call script has been evolving for a long time. Before, like when we first opened, it was, I'm sure this is what most people have done. It's like they fill out the form on the website, call them, and then you're just like, all right, cool, we got your book. And that was really it. Where now we've really evolved it, kind of in the combination of the work we've done with Dr. Travis Stewart and Making Moves, and then also Dr. Nikki Cottis and what her team does, and really like mesh the two to fit us. And I think that's a really big thing, and maybe a topic for another time, but really taking systems and procedures from other practices and not just like using that, but really making it authentic for your practice, and for your demographic and for the people you want to be seeing. Because we've had phone scripts that were 10, 12 minutes long. And by the time like it got to, okay, we got your book, like they're almost bored or frustrated that you're taking up so much time to schedule their appointment. Like we're working with mid-level professionals, 35 to 50. Like they're like, time is one of their biggest assets, right? It is for everyone. But they're not just like sitting at home, just kind of waiting on a phone call. Like they're like, all right, I got to get back to a meeting or an email. And so we try to be as efficient as possible, but also get all the information we need. So to dive into that, we start off, we make sure we have their right contact information. We used to go through like phone number, email, birthday all at once. But for us, the biggest thing, when we get that for the most part in the contact form, is to actually confirm birthday so that we can, that's the best way to get them into our system, is if we have a phone number and a birthday, then everything else works. And we're not asking too much information. We found that when we ask for email up front, some people are actually a little more hesitant, especially if it was someone calling into the office. So we wait till the end to confirm email. But go through that whole process. And then we always ask who referred them in. And if they're like Facebook, whatever, like, oh, we love social media, whatever it might be. And then from there, and I think one of the most important things, and Spencer, I know you do this too, is we ask them why they're seeking chiropractic care. What are they looking to gain from seeing a chiropractor? And then typically that just opens the floodgates. For some people, it's I have back pain. For others, it's their life story of why
Yep.
they're having headaches and migraines. And we train, it's probably one of the biggest things we train on is not necessarily the script of our phone call, but the empathy and the way we are responding and really answering that whole process. And then we let them know that we've seen tons of patients with that issue, and we think we could be a really big benefit for them and see similar results for them. But it all starts with an exam. And then we started implementing this as well, rather than a frequently asked question is, do you take insurance? And so we actually just beat them to it, right? We always want to be in front
Yep.
of the questions. And so we'll ask them, do you have health insurance? They'll sometimes tell us yes, but I don't really care to use it, or whatever it might be. And this is really important too, because we're an office that doesn't take insurance. Why have them waste their time and our time coming through our entire process, which, if you include the exam and the report of findings, is a little over an hour? Why waste all the time and them driving to the office to then get to the very end of it and be like, oh, well, I want to use my insurance? It's like, okay, that could have been taken care of well before you even walked in. So that's a big filter. We have ways to overcome that and everything like that, like ways to handle that objection. And then from there, after that, we want to make sure we get them on the right time. We would like to book them that week, pending our schedule. So like, hey, we always tell them our next opening for the next day. Like, hey, we can see you as soon as blank, right? So today's Tuesday. We can see you as soon as tomorrow at 9 a.m. Does that time work for you? They'll say no. And they'll be like, okay, what's a good day and time for me to look at for you? And then we go from there, get them booked, and then take card on file. And yeah, there's a couple others like small things, but that's the basis of our phone call.
Nice. Yeah. Are you asking them when the best time for them to come in is on the contact form?
Not our current one, but I'm assuming as we transition over to transition over to Patch and more like Google and everything, that'll be part of the questionnaire.
Well, Patch just took my contact form that I already had on my Squarespace. I was already doing the contact form thing before I did Patch, and I just told them, I said, this is the contact form that we use right now. What do you think? And they're like, it's good.
Cool.
So yeah, we get the information that we get name, first name, last name, email, phone number. We get what are they looking for, and it's either like restoration of health, adult, kid, prenatal, postpartum, or wellness for child or adult. And then we just say the best day for me to come in is either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And it has like the hours next to it. And then it says, I would prefer an appointment in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening. And then we just have this one blank that just says, how can we help? And then that's where people will put either like looking to get adjusted, or they'll be like, my baby is spitting up and I'm not sleeping at night, or all those kind of things. So we kind of understand what their focus is, to where then when either I or Logan and Danny call in, they'll be like, hey, is this so-and-so? Hey, is this Zach? Yeah, this is Zach. Oh, hey, Zach, we got your form in. I see that your baby's having a really hard time sleeping and eating at night. I just want to let you know that you're calling, that you're talking to the right place, and that we see really great results with that. Our next appointment that's available is, Tuesday at 3. I would love to get you booked with that. Let me tell you a couple things about our practice. Do you have any questions first? And they'll be like, oh yeah, like blah, blah, blah. I'll be like, great. Well, let me tell you a little bit about our process. Well, first thing is we're a pediatric and prenatal specialized office. We have a 2-day process. I'm only,
not to interrupt, but I'm only laughing because I can tell how your tone has changed as you're going throughout the phone call. And I don't know if that's to mimic Logan, or if that's the way I would imagine you're talking with like a first-time patient, is like in a very calming tone.
Yeah, it's called downward deflecting. If you, I didn't know about that until I started doing some of the chiro intensive stuff, and they started talking about it. But like whenever I tilt my chin up like this, you can just hear how naturally like my voice inflects. And then it's called downward deflecting. So literally, if you want to just bring like a more grounding, like calming tone, like you literally just tilt your chin down and you'll naturally start to talk in this like slower, more grounding pace. Like I can hear it in my own voice, and all I did was tilt my chin. And like I'm not intentionally slowing down my words. Like it's literally just a physical cue from my body. And I think we just, as humans, I guess, do that naturally. Because like if you whisper, like if you're gonna whisper, like would you? Like, you're not gonna tilt up like this and like whisper, right? You're gonna So it's kind of the same thing. Like so it's called downward deflecting. So I was teaching the girls about that.
We also like, it's like big and bold and like just something we're trained on. I'm gonna steal the downward deflection for sure. But also talking with a smile. And
yes,
that is like a really, it is something you can actually tell a difference. And now that like if you start listening to it for yourself, or like start training your team on it, you'll notice when you make an inquiry or you're talking with another like salesperson on the phone, whether or not they're talking with a smile too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can probably hear it in us. We always frown on this podcast.
Big frowners.
Brr. Yeah, but I mean, I really do think that is a thing. Like we always, like you always want to start the call just optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, okay, for you, what have you told, what's your main goal of your phone call?
Our main goal is to one, understand. We have two main goals. One, understand like why is a patient seeking our care, and then goal number two is if we're the best fit for them.
Yep.
And that's really it. And
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is like the phone call is so important because it's just we are figuring out if we're the right place for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if somebody submits a contact form or calls in on the phone and is like, "Oh my gosh, I just got hit by a car," and you're like, "Okay, well, we don't take insurance, and we're a pediatric focused nervous system office," and they're like, "Yo, I just got hit by a car," and be like, "Dog, you need to call 911."
Yeah,
like,
right,
like or I think that's it too. Like another thing for us, and like people really appreciate it, is like I had a guy call in and I answered, and he was like, "Hey, I'm visiting in town, and I'm looking to just get in today and get adjusted. I've been seeing a chiropractor at my hometown, and I'm looking for a place." I'm like, "Hey, bro, like we don't take walk-ins. We're a pregnancy and kids focused office, and we refer." And I'm curious in these situations because I ask him like, "Hey, man, what made you want to call this office? Like, how did you find us?" And he's like, "Oh, well, you were the first place that came up on Google when I searched chiropractor near me." Or, I saw that you had the most 5-star reviews, so I gave you a call.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Hey, man, well, that's great. Like, we get great results, and that's because we just make sure that people are in the right place. If you're looking for a walk-in visit, our buddy down the street at Argyle Chiropractic, he takes walk-ins. So you're more than welcome to go out there. That's who we send all of our walk-in visits to. If your family or your wife is ever pregnant, or you're ever looking to get your kids under care and you're here for a long time, then we would love to have you."
Yep.
And dude, people are so appreciative of that.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh my gosh, thanks so much."
It does really go a long way. I mean, we get Medicare like all the time. Like we don't take Medicare. So it's like, yeah, let me just send you to our Medicare friends down the street.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, same. I mean, yeah, people call in and they'll like submit and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm looking for care for arthritis and degeneration." And they'll be like, "Yeah, I have like a lumbar fusion, and I live in the retirement community, which like you have to be 65 or older to live in." And be like,
Yeah.
"Okay, well, great. Like we're not a Medicare office, and we're not equipped to take care of people in your stage of life. And so what we want to do is we would love to refer you over to our place." And I mean, I tell him, I was like, my grandma goes and sees this guy whenever he comes in because he just has the equipment that I don't like.
Right.
And so
I think too,
we like to make the referral.
I'd love to hear at least a little bit, like, what does the script look like when you do start explaining like the way y'all's office works?
Yeah. So what we tell people over the phone is we say, "Hey, so we're a prenatal, pediatric, and family specialized office. And so we do things a little bit differently than traditional chiropractic offices. We're mainly focused on the nervous system. And so we have a 2-day onboarding process so we can get to know you and figure out the best plan for you and your family. In the first day, what we'll do is we'll do a consult where we'll learn all the details about what's going on for you. And then we'll do a nervous system assessment. And that includes our scans. They're non-invasive. There's no blood or needles, but what they do is they give us a good idea of how your brain is controlling your body. And we'll explain more about that whenever you come in. And then what we'll do after that is we'll do a chiropractic assessment so we can feel what's going on for your body. After we get all the details in that first visit, what we'll have you do is come back for a second visit where you and the doctors will go over what your best plan of action is to not only meet your goals, but to get you great results. We'll go over the details of the scans that we do in the first day, and we'll talk about finances then. Since we're not in network with insurance and we're a specialized office, some of our services aren't covered by insurance. So we're a direct pay office. So we do accept HSA and FSA, but we don't directly bill to insurance. Our visits average between $50 and $60. It depends on what plan you come in. And typically the doctors will have you come in 2 to 3 times a week, depending on what's going on. Any questions about that? And they'll say, nope.
Yeah. It's always funny when they're like, nope. Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, makes sense. right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then at the end we'll be like, and be like, and so the total for all of that is $200, and that covers everything I just explained the first and second day with your report and your recommendations. And
Hmm.
so instead of us being like, so it's $200, what we do is we say, hey, this is all the stuff you're getting, and it's $200. What I
Hmm.
found is that whenever we say like, oh yeah, for you to come in for your first visit, it's $200, people will stop listening
Yeah.
because they don't understand what is included in that $200.
Right.
And so then when I said, hey, like, let's just try, explain everything. And at the end of it, be like, hey, that's $200 and it
Yeah.
covers all of that. And they'll be like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Because it's like, dude, like I'm getting a lot. Like you just spent
Hmm.
probably 25, 30 seconds explaining to me everything that you're going to do.
Right.
And that's $200.
Right. And I think it's interesting because you never really have offered like that Facebook ad pricing.
Nope.
And it's just very interesting. That's always been like just a inner like turmoil in myself, is like we explain these amazing scans and everything we do, and then it's like, yeah, it'll be $35. It's like,
What?
yeah.
Yeah. Not
Um,
the cheapest. So when I first opened, my initial visit was $65.
mhm,
And that was before I had like all the scans and stuff. And then once I got the scans, it was $100. And I was at $100 I was at like $99 for like a while.
mhm,
And then when I hired Logan, I couldn't afford to charge $99 anymore. And so um, then we went to 150 and we were at 150 for quite a bit. And then
mhm,
right at the beginning of this year, or really actually at the beginning of the summer, we started charging 200. And that I feel like that is a good sweet spot for us right now.
mhm,
Um, it doesn't make it like super outlandish that disqualifies people, but it also creates a little bit enough of a barrier to where people who like want to go to the joint and just get racked and cracked,
mhm.
or like just want to drop in. It's enough money to say like, okay, I understand that this is an investment, but
Yeah.
it's not enough to like break the bank and be like, dang, like I don't know if I can make this investment at all.
Right. And I think too, um, and that wasn't me trying to like discount. I think there is, as I mentioned last week, I think there is a time and place where it's okay to run those type of discounts. But I realized for us, it was really devaluing um, our services
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends
to
on what
both
you
like
want to
our
do.
current patients and future patients.
Yeah, it's like, well, it's like, dude, if I'm like seeing nobody and I need to flood my office with people, like I want to
Mhm.
get as many people through the door as possible,
Right.
then you lower that barrier of entry and you just say, hey, like it's $50 to get in.
Hmm.
I think like I think that you can't charge for your initial. I think the threshold is if you charge less for your initial than you do an adjustment, I think that's kind of incongruent. So like
Hmm.
the lowest that I would ever run a special would be for whatever I charge for one adjustment. And like
That's fair.
yeah. So like for our wellness, like, and really not even like probably for my drop in rate,
Hmm.
I would charge like whatever it would be like for my drop in rate, because then I feel like there's just like a price incongruency when you're like, hey, it's $35 and we'll do all this. And now it's $70 a visit. I feel
Hmm.
like that's kind of like a bait. Like it's not it. I feel like it's kind of getting close to that bait and switch. Like, look how cheap this is. It's super expensive,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Especially like at what we do, like in PT, because I've talked to Jeremy about this with Patch quite a bit. And Jeremy's like a really big fan of like the low ticket entry.
Hmm.
And for physical therapists, I think it works really well because they're not selling as large of a volume of visits as we are. And I think it's okay, I guess, if you're only doing like, say like 8, 12, maybe
Hmm.
even 24, like at your highest level. But like, I mean, 24 is like a low end care plan for us. And I would say it's probably average for you.
Hmm.
And so I think whenever you're like, hey, it's $35 or $47 or whatever to get in, but it's like, and I'm trying to sell you 24 visits at $70, I feel like that's a huge jump in
Right.
finances.
Right.
Versus if you're like, hey, this is just to see if it's going to work for you. Like, I recommend that you need 8 visits. Eight
Yeah.
visits at $100 a piece, like, is a little more digestible because you're like, okay, it's $100 a visit. It's an hour long.
Yeah.
I'm getting 8. I'm only getting 8 of them. Like
Hmm.
versus like, hey, I'm under care for 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah.
I just
Right.
thought I was here for $35.
Yeah. But going back to the phone call, where do you, maybe in like conversations with your team, where do they feel like the drop off is? Like, where does someone either disqualify themselves? And I think we've kind of covered that enough, but where does someone, um, become uninterested, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is if um where people get disinterested. People get disinterested if one, you I think for us at least, you present that price tag first. If you're like, yeah, it's $200 to start. They're
Hmm.
like, man, like I thought it would be cheaper than that, And like our
Yeah.
pricing's on our website, but like when you hear it and like
Hmm.
for sure that's a thing, like
Yeah.
it gets kind of to be a lot. Versus if you tell people like, hey, if you say first, hey, what are you coming in for? Um, then and you let them explain it and you say, okay, we can definitely help. And
Hmm.
they're like, okay, sure. So I know that I've called the right place. And then you say, so the way that we help people just like you in your situation is with our 2-day onboarding. The best way to figure out uh, the extent in which we can help you is with our 2-day onboarding process. And so what that looks like is this: boom, 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 boom. And then you just say, and all of that is $200. And they're
Hmm.
like, okay, great. That makes sense as to why it's $200.
Yep.
You're the place that I need to be calling. You know exactly what I need. You have a process to help me figure it out. That equals $200.
Hmm.
And then, so then I feel like if, when we start conversations of like, do you have any questions for us? Like when they call, hey, we got your form. I just wanted to know if you had any questions before we get you on the
Hmm.
schedule. If you start like that and
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, I wanted to know if you take my insurance. And then you say, oh, we don't take your insurance,
Yeah.
like right from the jump. Then they're like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
I think you have to put the value in the front
Hmm.
and then you have to meet the objections before they get a chance to ask them. And then,
Well, I think I mean, it's really easy to equate to a report of findings. Like, you got to let people know what's going on and like the results from their scans and everything like that before, like, all right, we're going to do a 24 visit care plan, like from the very beginning. And here's why.
yeah.
They're going to be like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to listen to the rest of this.
Well, dude, it's like if like I got reservations at like a really fancy restaurant, like for us to go, like let's say like me, you, and like our wives go on a double date, right? And I'm like, hey Zach, we're going on this double date. It's $800 a plate, and you'd be like, nah.
Yeah.
Versus if I'm like, hey Zach, I booked us reservations at this really cool new restaurant for us to go on a double date. And so what it is like Gordon Ramsay, he just started this new restaurant in Dallas, and it's a 9-course meal. And so it's like we get one of every appetizer, we get a specialty cocktail, we each get an entree, and it's all you can eat of his beef Wellington. It's only open for 3 nights. And I know that you work late on Thursdays and you work a half day on Friday. So what I did was I booked us in a visit, or I booked us this reservation at 7 o'clock on Friday night. I already asked Morgan. She said that you guys don't have any plans, and she's gonna force you to come whether you want to or not. And all of that is $800. And so, do you want to go or not?
I'd be like,
Right?
yeah, sign me up.
I'm like, yeah, and they'd be like, and it's $800 for the both of you total. So it's $400 a plate, but it's 9-course meal. Gordon Ramsay's only coming once to Dallas, and it's everything on the menu, all you can eat. Already taken care of it. Just say yes, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, that sounds way better than me being like, yo, Zach, I need you. We're going to have dinner. It's $800, and you're like, nah. I don't even know. I mean, probably for Gordon Ramsay, I would do $800, but
Yeah.
if it was cooked by
I
him,
did see last night there's a restaurant in Las Vegas that they call it their mafia plate. It's like a bone-in tomahawk. It's like,
sheesh.
I think it's like 16, maybe 24 ounces of prime rib and like a lobster tail. And I was like, dang. And the guy was like, yeah, it's $400. And I was like, maybe. It
Maybe.
looks really good.
Yeah. But so like that's the difference though, between being like, hey Zach, I need you to do this versus being like, hey,
Hmm.
I like blah 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 blah. So I need you to come.
Yeah.
And so
I think
so
too, one thing just from like an experience I've had recently is I had signed up to get some like really extensive blood work done. And then um got the blood work done, and I was like told like, yeah, after the blood work we'll give you this full, like it was like a 55-page report breakdown like of my blood work and everything. And they're like, it'll be $360. And I was like, okay, like that sounds great, like to get all that taken care of. And they're like, it'll take about 5 to 10 business days after your blood work. I got my blood work taken 6 weeks ago, and I only have the results. I don't have the breakdown, like the format. I followed up once already. And so I think to kind of tie up this whole conversation, it's really important to, one, convey the value, but then when they are in the office,
you
to
actually follow through.
follow through with that value. So
Yeah, I mean, you can't be like, Oh yeah, in our office, our biggest thing in our office is that you get one-on-one time with the doctor, and so you're gonna be in there, and it'll only be you, and then like you're in the office, they're in your open adjusting room. Like for us, like there's kids running around everywhere, jumping
Hmm.
on the table and everything. And you're talking to your CA and you're talking to the dad on the table about the sports game. And then
Hmm.
you're trying to console the kid. And this is like a brand new mom who has never been a chiropractor before. And they're like, I don't even know what is going on. Like, and you just lay the baby on the table, and then you're like, okay, now we're gonna adjust your baby. Boom, boom, boom. Your baby is healed, and now you owe me $24, 24 visits at $2,000. Versus like if you're like, hey, I tell parents all the time, like especially parents with a baby, um, like a brand new baby that like is colicky or like
Hmm.
whatever. I'm like, hey, listen, I just want you to know before we get going, I have this whole hour blocked off for you, or I have 30 minutes blocked off for you. Nobody's going to interrupt us. If you ever need
Hmm.
to take some time to change the baby, feed the baby, it's totally okay. The visit can kind of go at your pace. But I'm totally available for you, and I'm only available for them. Like
Yeah.
when people are in the office and they're like, "Hey, I need to talk to Spencer," they'll say, "No, Spencer's in a consult. Uh, let me take a message for him." Or like
Hmm.
if people are like if I'm waiting for a mom to get scanned and she's changing into the scanning gown and I'm outside of the door and people are like, "Hey, can we talk about this?" And be like, "Hey, listen, I'm with this
Hmm.
lady. I'm scanning her. Um, leave a message with Logan and I'll send you a text."
Yeah.
Or those kind of things. Or like if I am on the table, people ask me things and be like, "Hey, listen, I'm really focused on this baby right now. Leave a message with Logan, and we'll get there." And I think people respect that, and I think it makes them
Hmm.
feel like, "Oh, okay, like he really is focused just on me,"
Yeah.
versus like just running me through this mill of people.
Hmm. Rather than like, and I think too, you don't want to leave someone either in a gown or like they just changed. Like you don't want them waiting there for hours on hours.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think explaining like each part of your process and why
Hmm.
you do it gives people a lot of transparency and it makes them feel trust. Like one of the things is like we have a mirror in our scanning room, and what I do is I tell people, I say, "Hey, I'm going to have you sit on the stool and face the mirror." And whenever they face the mirror and I say, "I love having this mirror here because before I didn't and it was kind of awkward that I was like standing behind you talking, but I really like this mirror because now we can still talk face to face while I'm
Hmm.
scanning you."
Nice.
Um, yeah, so, like, that's, like, one of the best ads that I've had in my scanning room is a mirror. Because I mean, you're not in there while anybody's changing or anything, but then you can still talk to them face to face. So when I'm explaining the scans to them, they're not like, "What is this guy doing behind my back?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's a really good point. Yeah.
right. So, but I tell people that too. Like, I
Hmm.
I I tell them, "Hey, transparently, I thought it was kinda awkward whenever, like," and it's meeting that objection because I know, like,
Hmm.
when you go in and you're in a gown and some guy's rolling this thing that you've never seen on your back,
Hmm.
and you're like, "This is kinda awkward." And so
Right.
you just acknowledge it. "Hey, I understand that this is awkward and, like, it's
Yeah.
okay."
And that's one thing. I mean, again, I say this all the time. It's never been an issue, and it will never be an issue. But especially going into a scan with a girl, like in our closed room,
Yep.
I've started to bring in Rachel when she's getting trained on our scans and everything. Um, but I just wanted to break that any level of uncomfortableness, like just completely like leave it at the door. Because for a long time, like it was just me and whoever, and like again, nothing ever happened. But I would never want there to be even like a question of something happening.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time. I say, "Hey, at any point in time, if you're ever uncomfortable with anything that
Hmm.
happens here in this office, you let us know, and we'll stop immediately, and we'll make
Yeah.
sure that we can do something that fits your like that works for you."
Yeah.
Especially with women, like what I always say too is like I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna have you change into this gown, and I'm gonna step out of the room,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna let you change. If you don't open the door, I'm never going to come in." And
Yeah.
so they're like, "Ha ha ha." I'm like, "No, for real. Like, I will never open the door until you like, I'll never come
Yeah.
in this room until you open the door."
Yep.
And so, like, the power is in your hands. And that's why I also do like I have the mirror thing too. It's like, "Hey, I want us to be able to talk face to face in
Hmm.
this so that we're completely transparent with everything that we do." And I think to bring it back to the phone call, that goes back to, "Hey, I told you that we don't take insurance. I told you that we had a 2-day process. I told you that it's $200. I told you
Hmm.
that we're gonna give you a care plan and recommendations and that you're gonna come in twice a week at least." Right? All of those things, are told upfront to where there's no surprises. Confused customers don't buy. And so if you hit people with a curveball, or you like try to like pull some magic trick out of your hat, then it's only going to create confusion. People like expectation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think that's the biggest thing. And so that goes into the whole pre-framing. We pre-frame everything. So the phone call pre-frames the visit, and then
Mm-hmm.
after the phone call, when they schedule the visit, they get more emails talking about, hey, you just booked your appointment. So glad we got to talk on the phone. Here's what's
Mm-hmm.
going to go on in your appointment. When they come in, the girls say, hey, you can have a seat right here. There's the water. There's the restroom. When the doctors are ready for you, they'll pull you back in for your visit, and they'll ask you all the things that are going on, and they'll do your scans. And then I'll sit them down and I'll say, hey, today what we're going to do is we're going to go through your paperwork. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. After that, we're going to go through your scans, and I'm going to get you on the table in the other room
Mm-hmm.
to get you adjusted. And then like, all those things. So I always tell people what's next.
Yep. And it all starts with the phone call. And can't emphasize enough how important that is.
Yeah. To kind of button everything up, and as a final thing, we've mentioned pre-qualification or disqualification
Mm-hmm.
a couple times. Can you explain to like everybody what does like quote qualifying someone or disqualifying someone actually mean?
I think qualifying someone is after you've gone through the phone conversation. Like they're not if you're a cash pay office, they're not expecting you to take their insurance. You're the right fit. Like you are trained to help them, and that they're gonna see great results in your office or can expect great results from your office. And then disqualifying is kind of the exact opposite, right? So if they're looking for insurance, that's okay. If they're like in our office, I don't see kids under the age of 6, and I don't see pregnant moms. And so if that's what they're looking for, they're out the door. We're referring them. Medicare, those types of things. So just making sure that your office is the right fit for them, and that you're trained and qualified to take care of them. So it's also qualifying yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I wanted to hit on. Like in the whole job of the phone call is to figure out, are you a good fit for our office or not? Are you
Mm-hmm.
going to waste my time? Am I going to waste your time? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And so that's for us. Like, are you a pregnant mom, a kid? Basically, would Zach see you or not? Basically, if
Yeah.
Zach would see you, then we need to see Zach. If Zach wouldn't see you, then you need to see us or Morgan.
Yeah.
And
That is a funny way to put it.
so that's kind of how, so, I mean, same location, like distance to driving,
Mm-hmm.
like that's a big one. Like we have this one lady, dude, she's like, oh my God. She's like, yeah, I'm driving from an hour and a half away. We're like, well, there's an office like that's right next to you, like
Mm-hmm.
literally in the backyard that you like, please go there. And she's like, no,
Yeah.
I want to come here.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, please go there. And then
Yeah.
what is her like big thing? She's like, I just don't know if I can drive this far 3 times a week. That's a big, and it's like, hey, look, I told you like you need to do it. She's like, oh, we're willing to do it, and it's fine. I'm like, okay, well, for your wellness care, I'm still going to refer you to this practice closer to your house.
Yeah, we had a patient. When we were doing movement workshops, when we were doing health classes, like she was a star student, saw great results in her office, but she lived out in like Allen, and she's like always coming in at 5:50. She's like, man, it's kind of a lot of stress to get over here. And she was like 4 months into wellness, and she was like, we both just kind of looked at each other. I'm like, you don't have, like, you're not like,
you don't have to come here.
Yeah, you don't have to come here. Like, she's like, I was hoping you'd say that. Like, where do you have anyone in Allen or Frisco? I was like, darn right, my boy, Colton O'Brien. And now she's there and getting great care. So I think a large part of it too is like, what is your grasp over your patients? Like, don't feel like you're the only one for them. And one, it'll help your staff and you from like a conversion and just happiness standpoint if you know who you want to see and you're not just trying to see everyone.
Yeah, if your practice is full of the people that you really love and you like hanging out with, then you're just gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Let us know what you think about this episode. I think there's a lot of gold nuggets. This is a big thing that, dude, oh my gosh. It takes like so much time to like refine your phone call because it really, I think, takes a lot of self-discovery for you to really figure out who do I want to see, who do I want to be to them, and what am I willing to do. So you got to figure that out, and that really starts getting translated in your phone call and across your messaging overall. So let us know what you think. Share the show. And thanks so much for listening to the episode of the What Now podcast.
Peace.